I asked my mom to pick up my sick daughter, but she said no, so I stayed silent. And the consequences finally reached her when it mattered. Last winter, I got a call from my daughter's school around 1:30 p.m. She had a fever, chills, and was throwing up. I was in the middle of a client meeting that had taken 2 weeks to schedule, and I knew I couldn't leave. I had never asked my mom for anything big, not since I'd moved out at 19. But that day, I made an exception. I called her and asked if she could pick up Lily. The school was 10 minutes from her house. I explained everything, how sick Lily was, how I was stuck until 3 o'clock, how all she needed to do was pick her up and keep her warm at her place for a bit until I got there. I even offered to bring groceries over the next day or pay her back for gas. She cut me off. "I'm not your babysitter," she said. That was all she said, not even a sorry. Then she hung up. It wasn't the first time she acted cold, but it was the first time it hurt someone other than me. Lily is 7. She's never asked anyone for much. She had the flu and she was scared. The nurse had to leave early that day, so they moved her to the front office. Then the receptionist said she couldn't stay there either, too many germs, so they told her to wait by the front entrance until someone came. I didn't know that part until later. When I pulled up, Lily was sitting outside on the concrete bench, hugging her backpack like it could warm her. Her coat was zipped up to her chin, but she was still shivering. Her cheeks were red from the cold, not from fever. Her eyes were glassy. She looked like she'd given up waiting for anyone else. She didn't even cry when she saw me. She just stood up slowly and said, "Can we go home now?" That night, I didn't sleep. I lay next to her and thought about all the times I'd swallowed things for the sake of keeping peace. All the times my mom said I was dramatic, ungrateful, soft. All the times she crossed the line and I said nothing. But this was different. I didn't yell. I didn't text her some long message or call her out on Facebook. I didn't say anything. 3 days later, the call started, crying, begging, panicking. First from her sister, "Your mom says she needs your help. What's going on? Call her. She's crying." Then another one from her friend Carol, "She's been trying to reach you. Did something happen?" Then my dad, "Your mother's upset. Can you please act like an adult and talk to her?" I still hadn't said a word. But by then, something small had already started, something quiet. I wasn't done. It was late February when my mom ran into us at Target. I hadn't planned it. I never took Lily to the one near their neighborhood. But that Saturday, Carol had invited us over to bake cupcakes, and Lily wanted to get pink frosting and little candy hearts. We were in the baking aisle when I heard my mom say Lily's name. Lily turned around and smiled, but not the way she used to. It was a polite smile, not excited, not rushed, just polite. My mom bent down, arms open, but Lily didn't move. She said hi, then turned back to look at the shelf. I didn't say anything either. I just waited. She stood up slowly and asked what we were doing there. I said we were on our way to Carol's. That Carol had invited us for baking day. She blinked like she didn't understand the sentence. Carol? Why would she? Then she stopped, and I watched it hit her. I could see the math happening in her head, all the skipped dinners, the ignored texts, the silence, and now this, her granddaughter calling someone else Nana. She asked if she could come with us. I said no. Her voice got louder. She said this was petty. She said she didn't deserve this kind of treatment, that I was punishing her over nothing. I didn't answer. I turned to Lily and asked if she found the frosting she wanted. She nodded and dropped it in the cart. Then I walked past my mom and didn't look back. That night she left 4 voicemails. One of them she was crying. One of them she sounded angry. One of them she begged. She said she missed Lily, that she was sorry if she came off the wrong way, that she didn't realize how serious I was about all this, but I knew she wasn't sorry about what she did. She was sorry she got left out. The next morning, I got a call from my dad. I didn't pick up. Then he texted, "You've made your point. She's miserable. What do you want from her?" I didn't reply because I already had what I wanted. She was finally feeling it, and I wasn't done yet. It was the Saturday before Valentine's Day, and Carol had invited us over to bake cupcakes and make little heart crafts with the kids. Lily had been talking about it all week. She picked out a sparkly apron from her closet that morning and insisted we stop at the store for pink frosting and candy hearts. I almost didn't go to that Target. It was the one near my parents' house, but I figured it was early enough and we'd be in and out. We were in the baking aisle when I heard someone behind us say Lily's name. That fake sweet tone that always had a little edge under it. I didn't even need to turn around. Lily did though. She said hi. No hug, no excitement, no running over, just a flat little hi. Then she turned back and asked me if we could get the rainbow sprinkles, too. My mom stood there with a smile frozen on her face. She looked at me, waiting for something. I said nothing. I picked up a bag of flour and pretended to compare it to another brand. She asked what we were doing there. I told her we were on our way to Carol's baking day. She blinked like I'd spoken another language. Carol? Why are you going to Carol's? I said nothing. She laughed a little and said she could come too, that she hadn't seen Lily in a while and it would be good to catch up. I didn't even pretend to consider it. I just said, no, you're not invited. That was it. And she didn't know what to do with it. Her smile dropped. She asked if this was really still about the school thing, that she hadn't realized I was going to drag it out this long. She kept saying how it wasn't a big deal, that everyone was overreacting, that she didn't mean anything by it. Lily, completely unaware of the tension, was still comparing sprinkle jars. I leaned down and asked if she was ready. She nodded. As we walked away, I could feel my mom staring after us. She didn't say anything else, but I knew it wasn't over. That night, the voicemails started again, 4 in a row. One where she cried, one where she said I was cruel, one where she said she didn't even remember what she'd done wrong, and one where she begged to talk to Lily. The next morning, my dad called. I didn't pick up. He texted instead, "You've made your point. She's miserable. What do you want from her?" I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't write back because it was never about making a point. It was about proving something I'd tried to ignore for years, that she had never really cared for Lily the way she pretended to, that when it counted, she saw her as my problem, not her granddaughter. But now that someone else was stepping up, someone who wasn't related by blood, someone who didn't know anything to Lily, it was starting to eat her alive. And the best part? I hadn't yelled. I hadn't argued. I hadn't made a scene. I just disappeared, and I wasn't done yet. By the end of February, I was already used to ignoring their calls. My mom had switched from angry to emotional and then to guilt-tripping. My dad stuck to his usual strategy, pretending none of it was happening. Then something unexpected happened. I got a letter in the mail, a formal one. Thick cream paper, expensive envelope from my parents' attorney. I almost tossed it, but curiosity got me. It was a notice. My mom and dad had updated their will. Apparently, I was no longer the executor. That job now belonged to my cousin Rachel, the one who once called Lily a drama queen for crying at her 5th birthday party when someone popped her balloon. I read it twice, laughed once, then set it down. It was the most transparent move yet. They wanted me to feel cut out, like I was being punished, but it felt like a relief. 3 days later, Lily's birthday came around. She wanted to have it at the trampoline park, just a few friends from school, some pizza, nothing over the top. Carol helped organize everything. She even made the cake, chocolate with raspberry layers. I didn't invite my parents, not because I wanted to make a statement, but because it didn't even occur to me. That's how far gone it already was. But they came anyway. I saw them walking in right as we lit the candles. They stood by the door holding a gift bag and a camera. My mom had on that bright lipstick she only wears when she's trying too hard. My dad looked like he didn't even want to be there. Lily saw them. Her face didn't change. She leaned over and whispered to me, "I don't want to open their gift." I nodded. We blew out the candles. Moved on. They stood there through the whole party like awkward guests at a wedding they weren't invited to. When it ended, they came over and tried to hug Lily. She stepped behind me and waved instead. My mom handed me the gift bag and said, "I hope you're proud of what you've done." I said, "You came to a child's party uninvited and are now blaming the child. That's impressive." She didn't say another word. I gave the gift bag to Carol, told her to toss it or donate it. She didn't even ask questions, just nodded and set it aside like she already knew. That night, I got another text from my dad, "You're hurting your mother. This has gone too far." That's when I realized something important. They still thought this was about them. They hadn't even considered that maybe this was about Lily, about what she needed, about how she'd been left in the cold, literally, and now wanted nothing to do with the people who didn't come for her when it mattered. They thought this was some stunt, some tantrum. They didn't realize this wasn't punishment. It was protection, and things were about to get even colder for them. March came in hard that year, cold, icy, relentless. One Thursday night, just before midnight, my phone lit up with a call from my dad. I let it ring. A minute later, a text came through, "Power's out. Your mom slipped on the porch. I can't get the car out. Can you come help?" I stared at the screen for a long time. I could picture their driveway, steep, poorly shoveled, exactly the kind of thing my mom always refused help with. She'd once told me she didn't need a man with a truck to do what she could do herself. She was like that until it didn't work out. I texted back one word, "No." No follow-up, no explanation. I turned my phone face down and went back to bed. In the morning, there were 7 missed calls and 2 voicemails, one from my dad sounding frantic, one from my mom crying. I didn't listen to either. I called Carol instead and asked if she wanted to take Lily to the kids' museum that day. We made a whole thing of it: pancakes, crafts, a movie. Lily laughed so hard at one point she got hiccups. She never asked where Grandma was. Later that week, I heard from Rachel, the cousin from the will. She called to say my mom had fractured her wrist and my dad had thrown his back out trying to help her. She said they were both home miserable and apparently still without power for 2 days because the pipes froze and then burst. She said maybe I should consider being the bigger person. I told her I already had. That's why I was keeping Lily away. Then came the email, long, rambling. My mom had never been good at apologizing and it showed. She didn't say she was wrong. She said she understood why I was upset. She said she missed us, that she was sorry things had gotten so out of hand, that family should stick together, that she didn't know how we'd gotten here. I almost laughed. I didn't reply. That Saturday, Carol and I took Lily to a small town an hour away for a craft fair. On the way back, we passed a black SUV on the side of the road, hazard lights blinking. My stomach dropped. It was my dad's car. I slowed down for a second, enough to confirm it was them. Then I kept driving. Carol looked at me but didn't say a word. I didn't feel good about it, not proud, not triumphant, just done. They'd finally been left out in the cold the way Lily was that day on the school steps. Only this time, it wasn't a bench in front of a building. It was life. And I wasn't going to come pick them up this time. But even as I told myself it was justified, something in me shifted, not guilt exactly, something else. Because revenge doesn't heal. It only stops the bleeding, and I was starting to wonder if maybe it was time to actually mend something. For Lily, for me. Just not yet. It was sometime in early April when Lily drew that picture. She was sitting cross-legged on the living room rug, flipping through old crayons while I cleaned out the bottom drawer of the sideboard, the one we toss all her craft stuff into when we're too tired to sort it. She held up the paper and said, "Can I put this one on the fridge?" It was a house drawn in pink marker. 3 stick figures stood in front, one tall with brown hair, me, one shorter with wild red scribbles for hair and round glasses, Carol, and Lily in the middle holding both our hands. I smiled, said, "Of course." Then she looked at me and asked, "Do I still have a grandma?" I didn't expect the question. I didn't even have an answer right away. She wasn't angry. She just looked curious, like she was trying to solve a puzzle no one had explained the rules to. I told her yes, she did, but things were complicated. She said maybe she forgot how to be nice. Then she stuck the drawing on the fridge next to the one of a dinosaur with a birthday hat and skipped off to get juice. I stood there staring at that paper longer than I should have. The truth is, I'd been so focused on making a point, I forgot what Lily was seeing through all this. In my effort to protect her, I'd also erased parts of her story without asking if she was ready for that. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe I wasn't either. That night, after she went to bed, I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand for a full hour before I finally typed the message, "Do you want to see Lily next weekend?" No apology, no preamble, just that. My mother responded almost immediately. Within 3 minutes, her message was simply, "Yes." We settled on meeting at a nearby park, a neutral spot where everything could stay light and controlled. I was firm about the boundaries. It would be a brief visit, in a public place, with absolutely no pressure or emotional outbursts. No drama. I didn't mention anything to Lily until the very morning we were set to go. When I finally told her, she took it in stride, barely reacting beyond a quiet question, "Can I bring my scooter?" When we pulled up to the park, my parents were already there, seated on a weathered wooden bench beneath a cluster of bare spring trees. My dad rose to his feet the moment he spotted us approaching, shifting his weight uncertainly as if he wasn't quite sure whether to wave, step forward, or stay put. My mom remained seated, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her posture stiff and guarded. Lily paused beside me, glancing up with a flicker of hesitation in her eyes before whispering, "Is it okay if I say hi?" I gave her a small nod, reassuring her that it was her choice. She took a few slow steps forward, closing the distance on her own terms. My parents stood up together then, their greeting soft and tentative. Lily replied with a simple hi, her voice steady but quiet. After that brief exchange, she climbed onto her scooter and began gliding in gentle, unhurried circles along the paved path nearby. My parents settled back onto the bench, watching her in silence at first, occasionally filling the air with safe, surface-level remarks, comments about the mild weather finally arriving after a long winter, or how much taller she seemed since the last time they'd seen her. The conversation stayed light, almost fragile, as though everyone was afraid a wrong word might shatter the moment. About 10 minutes passed like that, the quiet rhythm of Lily's scooter wheels the only constant sound. Then, unexpectedly, she braked to a stop near the playground and turned toward my mom. "Grandma, will you push me on the swing? She asked, her tone matter of fact, as if it were the most natural request in the world. My mom's face registered genuine surprise. She froze for a second, her eyes widening as though she hadn't dared hope for such an invitation back into Lily's orbit. She glanced over at me, searching my expression for permission. I met her gaze and nodded once more, silently granting it. Without a word, my mom rose and walked over to the swings. She positioned herself behind Lily, placing her hands gently on the chains, and began to push, slow, careful pushes that built just enough momentum to lift Lily gently into the air. They didn't speak much during those minutes. Lily tilted her head back, gazing up at the pale blue sky and the budding branches overhead, a small smile playing on her lips as the breeze brushed her face. My mom focused entirely on the motion, her movements tender and deliberate, as if she understood how delicate this reconnection truly was. One sudden jolt and it might all come undone. We lingered at the park for perhaps 40 minutes in total. There were no tears, no heavy confessions, no attempts to unpack months of hurt in a single afternoon. Yet something intangible changed in that short time. The air felt less charged, the invisible walls a fraction lower. It wasn't a full repair, far from it, but the edges of the pain had softened, the tension loosened enough to breathe. A week later, an email arrived from my dad, a scanned copy of a colorful flyer announcing Lily's upcoming school fundraiser. Attached was a short, careful message asking whether they might attend. I thought about it for a day, then replied that they could come, provided they stuck to the same guidelines we'd quietly established. No gifts, no stepping beyond what Lily comfortably offered, no pushing for more closeness than she was ready to give. They honored the agreement completely. They arrived quietly, took seats toward the back of the auditorium, applauded warmly when Lily stood at the microphone to read her poem, and slipped out afterward without lingering or drawing attention to themselves. 2 weeks after that, Lily emerged from her room one evening clutching a fresh drawing. It was the same cheerful pink house she'd sketched before, but this time the family in front had grown. There were now 5 stick figures standing hand in hand, me with my brown hair, Lily in the center, Carol with her wild red curls and round glasses, and, newly added, my mom and dad, carefully labeled with their names in Lily's wobbly printing. She asked if we could hang it on the refrigerator alongside the others. That night, as I pulled the covers up to her chin and kissed her forehead, she looked up at me with thoughtful eyes and said softly, "I think Grandma's trying again." I paused, feeling the weight of her observation, then answered honestly, "I think she is, too. The wounds are still there, deep ones that won't vanish overnight. We're nowhere near fully healed, and perhaps we never will be in the way storybooks promise. But the icy standstill that had gripped us for so long has finally thawed. We're no longer frozen in place, trapped in silence and resentment. Some family ties snap irreparably under too much strain. Others flare up in spectacular, irreversible flames. But a few, like ours, smolder quietly for months, years even, banking hot coals beneath layers of ash until someone finds the courage to step back into the haze and stir the embers gently. This time, that someone was me. I didn't do it for my parents' comfort or to ease their regret. I did it for Lily, for the little girl who deserves to decide what her family looks like, who shouldn't have to carry the full weight of adult mistakes on her small shoulders. And perhaps, against all the odds we've stacked up over the seasons, this tentative step forward will be enough to rewrite the ending we were hurtling toward, not into a perfect fairy tale, but into something real, something possible. Maybe, just maybe, it will be enough.